This video was made possible thanks to Aliter Networks, supplier of a high-quality regenerated network equipment. More about them at the end of this video. Good morning, hi and hello. Welcome back to our channel, and if you're here for the first time, my name is Damian and I'm a network consultant. In today's material, we'll consider closely together if using a physical hardware in your network lab makes sense in these days of widespread and easily accessible cloud solutions. Let's go. It's no doubt that the beautiful days of using physical equipment for learning how networks operate in practice are well past. But is dropping this method of education actually worth it? We'll talk exactly about that in today's material. Imagine following scenario. You're just getting started with computer networking and you've decided to go for your Cisco CCNA certification, which, let's be honest, is still industry's golden standard. You made various courses the core of your studying, you're reading through and through the official cert guide, and for labbing, you're utilizing so popular nowadays virtualized and simulated environments. Which products specifically? Cisco's Packet Tracer stands out as a free simulator that will enable you to easily go through 95% of the exam topics within CCNA curriculum. Those more experienced of you will probably get their hands on an emulator like GNS3, IFNG or Viral by Cisco, which actually some time ago has been replaced with CML, which stands for Cisco Modeling Labs. Let's get back to our story. You're now well couple of weeks into the studying and you've spent hours on configuring the devices in the environment of your choice. You pass your exam and you get your CCNA certification. Congratulations, you've made your goal. But have you? If your goal was just getting the paper, then yes. But if you've planned to be completely fluent in working with Cisco's routers and switches, you've probably missed a very important part of it. The thing is that as network engineers we have to not only master the software layer of these boxes, but we should get also well accustomed with their hardware. Labbing with use of a physical hardware has obviously its pros and cons. Let's start with the former. First of all, it unfortunately takes place. The more devices you add to your lab, the more this becomes important. No doubt that there are some enthusiasts out there who take their pride from this huge rack filled with electronics in the middle of the room, but let's be honest, most of us would rather be disturbed by that. Second very important factor to take into account is the noise that the network devices are generating. You could solve this issue by purchasing smaller form factor switches that are very often passively cooled. However, such devices are very often much more expensive than what the typical student would like to spend on their lab. You could also invest in a special cabinet to store your devices in, but that's additional cost as well. The noise will be unfortunately something very tough to deal with in a home environment, unless you have a cellar to spare. The next disadvantage you have to account for are related costs. Which costs are we talking about? Well, purchasing the equipment and then powering it. In the first case, you can certainly reimburse some of your money by selling the devices back once you're done with labbing, but the costs associated with electricity bill are rather unavoidable. They are not astronomical, but your bill will rise. How much? This depends on how often you'll practice and how big of an environment you've built. These are exactly the reasons why so many people value not having the physical equipment in the first place and prefer labbing in, for example, the popular GNS3. If you notice some more advantages of the physical lab, do not hesitate to leave your comment below the video. Alright, time for the advantages, and there are some. All of them are obviously related with the pure fact of having an access to an actual hardware. First of all, utilizing aforementioned virtualized solutions like IFNG can be challenging or not clear enough for those of us who are only starting their networking journey. This software takes a lot of things onto much higher level of abstraction, and the beginners may simply not be used to it just yet. Of course, with time you'll have to get to it, but the first week of your networking education should be occupied with things that are much more familiar to your eye. This way you can focus on grasping the basics of managing network devices first. My second argument in favor is that physical equipment gives you an opportunity of testing various scenarios that involve physical failures. This is something that's rather unattainable in GNS3. You can cut and bend the cables if that's something you wish to do and see how this affects the operation of the network. You can disconnect various connections and put them in the places they were not supposed to be. Options are countless. Why would you do anything like that? Well, mostly to test how so-called failovers work. These are the mechanisms responsible for uninterrupted operation of the network, and redundant cable connections are a part of them. The third advantage that I'd like to emphasize is the pure possibility of getting more accustomed with the equipment. If you have a router with a flash memory card, you can, for example, inspect how would it react if you decide to swap this card while the device is normally operating. You could also upload your iOS image from pen drive just for the sake of noticing that not every pen drive will work, and it also should be properly formatted first. You can observe what happens when your device is booting up, for example how the Roman mode operates, and that's the subsystem that's responsible for booting the actual iOS. Finally, you have an option of opening the devices up and inspecting how are they built inside. Why I list all of these things up? I want you to notice that the experience with physical equipment in your lab will allow you to imagine much better later on what are the steps that the on-site person will have to deal with. Very often in our jobs we are managing these devices remotely, and being able to instruct someone else what are the steps that have to be done comes much easier if we had a chance to do these things ourselves in the first place. It will sort of allow you to look through the other person's eyes and see things much more clear. And besides, lots of people claim that time just flies by while you're labbing on a physical equipment. Why not to try it out? Before we wrap this video up, let's take a look what our sponsor Aliter Networks has to offer. If you're looking for a high quality regenerated network equipment that holds to its out-of-the-box parameters, then it's a good idea to consider their offering. It's applicable mostly to the companies that want to utilize Cisco equipment and at the same time want to save their money by avoiding purchasing the devices straight from the vendor. All of the equipment sold by Aliter Networks is regenerated and diagnosed keeping the highest standards possible. There's also an option of selling them back your used devices or renting some for your own needs. And if you want to build your own home lab, but you'd like to avoid buying a pick and a poke on auction portals, their offer is also for you. You can find more details at aliternetworks.com. So, who is the physical lab for? Mostly for those of us that are making their first steps in computer networking or feel the need to better grasp the physical aspect of routers and switches operations. You don't have to buy a whole lab straight away, but at the very beginning of your network journey, it will make sense to purchase at least a single router and a single switch. And for the very end, remember that the necessity of owning physical lab comes down to your learning style. If you're kinesthetic, which means a person who learns much better when is able to touch what they learn, I'm sure physical devices will bring you a lot of value. What are the particular models you should pay attention to? That will be a topic of one of our next videos, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up to keep us motivated, and if you didn't, then hitting the other icon twice just to be sure will work as well. And if you'd like to explore the world of computer networking further, don't forget to visit our website. You'll find a link in the video description down below. That's been it. Now go and make something awesome. See you soon. Bye bye.